Hello everybody, this is John Johnston. Recently I had the chance to return to Haymarket Park in Lincoln, Nebraska at the University of Nebraska for the first time since I've been dead. And that's a hell of a statement, completely true. And now you're wondering, what the hell is he talking about? August 21st, 2015, I was sitting at a customer site because in my real life I'm an IT consultant. I had heartburn, or what I thought was heartburn. I took my glasses off, I rubbed my forehead because I was in pain, and I fell over dead on the floor. My colleagues called 911 and tried to figure out what was wrong. Paramedics, EMTs showed up, did CPR, put a Lucas device on my chest, put me in an ambulance, and shocked me 5 times on the way to Hennepin Healthcare in downtown Minneapolis. There was no response to the 5 shocks. I was shocked 2 more times in the ER, and they brought me back, which means that they got my heart to start beating on its own again. There was a stent put in my widowmaker artery, the big artery in your heart, and I was put into a coma to save my brain function. And I spent like 9-10 days in the hospital, which I really don't remember hardly any of it. In January 2016, I had a second stent placed. In the following summer, May, June, I was diagnosed with a brain injury. And I'm lucky. Because I got most of my life back. I get to go to Haymarket Park as a credentialed photographer and shoot college baseball. I got to go to the Nebraska football spring game and shoot college football. I am very lucky. So why am I telling you this? I think it's important for people to understand what it's like to have a brain injury. And Haymarket Park provides me that opportunity to tell you what I went through in my return. So what is Haymarket Park? For those of you that aren't familiar with it, Haymarket Park is the Nebraska Cornhuskers college baseball stadium. It's a really neat place. You know, there are tons of Nebraska baseball fans. Nebraska routinely places in the top 20 of attendance for all colleges for baseball every year. People love their Husker baseball. I love Husker baseball. I've been to Haymarket Park a lot over the years, but this was the first time I had the chance to get back since I've been dead. So since 2015, I guess. So why is this weird? Haymarket Park was a black hole in my mind. Okay, and I knew this before I went there. By the way, I wrote all of my ordeal in a book called Been Dead, Never Been to Europe, and the title is about the irony of life or death, whichever you want to go with. But Haymarket Park in this case, it was just a black hole in my memory. I was told where I was supposed to pick up my credential, you know, go to this specific gate area. And I literally could not remember anything about Haymarket. I couldn't remember what it looked like. I couldn't remember what the gates looked like. It was really bizarre. And I wrote about this in my book when I returned to Omaha and shot the College World Series in 2018. I had shot the Big Ten baseball tournament in 2015, and I'd spent days there. But when I drove into that park in Omaha, I realized I didn't remember anything about being there before. I didn't remember the building. I didn't remember the structure. I didn't remember where to go. And Haymarket Park was the same way. Now I have memories of being at Haymarket. I can remember taking my oldest son there when he was about 9 or 10 and we were playing Texas. and there was a streaker that made it halfway through across the outfield before anybody saw him. And of course, like a good father, I didn't shield his eyes. I screamed, "Look at that guy!" And everybody in the crowd finally saw him as he was at center field. And he was young and athletic and fast, and he made it all the way across the field, jumped up onto the berm. I imagine all the mothers over there were completely terrified, but the event staff was chasing him, and the event staff at Haymarket is pretty much older guys. So watching all of these older guys chase this really young but completely naked young guy was absolutely hilarious. And I remember that. And I remember the time that Texas baseball coach Augie Garrido got thrown out of the game. And he's walking and we're counting his steps, left, right, and he pauses and he looks up and the whole crowd laughed and cheered because we hated that guy, but we loved to hate him, and that's kind of what sports is about. But again, it goes back to, why do I remember those things, but I don't remember what Haymarket looks like? Sorry. That's the hard thing about brain injuries. I've talked to enough people since I released my book that I know that no two heart attacks and no two brain injuries are alike. There's similarities because we're all human beings, but trying to compare what happened to me with another person is sometimes futile. But why I want you to understand this is because I mostly deal with sports publicly, and we're reading all the time about guys that suffer from CTE or their lives change when they get older. Maybe they're football players and they're having suicidal thoughts, or they go through depression, and they have all these changes that happen to them because of a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. So why does this happen? Why don't they get help? Why can't somebody fix this? Well, you need to understand that TBIs, brain injuries, they're invisible. I've been dead for over 20 minutes. I don't have a single scar on my body. Zero. You know, this is the joke, the scars are on the inside. Well, that's true. I had 2 stents placed. They were little pinholes, one of them here in my wrist. There's no indication that I have 2 stents. Nobody ever cut me open. If you were walking down the street, or let's say you went to get in an elevator and the elevator doors open and you saw a person there with a broken leg, you'd probably help them hold the door for them, or a broken arm. You'd react differently to them. Well, unless I told you, would you know I have a brain injury? Probably not, because as I said, there's no scars. Sometimes I don't pronounce words correctly. I've never been really good at that, but it's worse now than it was. I graduated with a math minor. I can understand at least some advanced math. Now I can barely figure out what tip I'm supposed to leave. So there's been a lot of changes. One of the things that has changed massively is memory. I even looked on a map at Haymarket, and I was like, when I looked at a map so I knew where to drive, even though I've been to that place in Lincoln God knows how many times, it literally, even on the map, was like, I don't understand where it just never formulated in my mind until I finally drove there and went there and figured out where to go and to get into the stadium and watch some baseball and take some photos. So why does this happen like this? Because I had to explain this to people. Why, for example, when I went to visit my nieces last summer, did I remember 3 out of the 4 of them? Why couldn't I remember which one was the mother and the sister and the daughter? And it was really bizarre. I came up with a concept that I call warehouse theory. And it's how I tried to explain to people why my memory was fractured. Because I actually start my book with a recollection from high school football. And then I remember this one game in which I was playing, in which I partially tackled the quarterback. And then my friend Todd, and it actually happens to be Todd that's in a lot of our other videos, came up and cleaned up the tackle and finished off the quarterback with me. And the problem with that memory is I didn't meet Todd until my second year of college. But it's there in my head. It's intact, as if it happened. So why is that like that? Warehouse theory. This is based on the latest science, by the way. What happened when I fell over down on the floor was my heart sent my brain a signal, and it said, hey, we're done here, and we're going to a better place. Maybe that's a stretch, but that's the message that got conveyed from here to here. And the brain is a giant warehouse. Now, people might explain it as a whole trillions of cells or some bloody thing, but it really is just a giant warehouse. And it has massive tons of warehouse workers in it. And there's a guy that controls the warehouse, and he gets on the PA and he announces to all the workers, hey, we're done here. We're going to move and go to a better place. And what happens in the warehouse when, what happens? The warehouse workers look at all these racks, and the racks are full of boxes, and your boxes are full of paper. And the paper is all your memories that you've accumulated over the years and all the things you know. And they're overjoyed because they're excited. And they start pulling the boxes down from the shelves, ripping them open, and throwing the paper in the air. And they throw it all into a big pile on the floor. And everybody knows that one guy in your life who's pyro guy, right? He's usually carries an accelerant with him. He's got gas, kerosene, whatever it is. He's the guy that always wants to have a bonfire. Well, he starts lighting all your memories on fire. And then you always got that other guy. He's like a fish out of water. Feels more comfortable in the pool or a lake. He's water guy, so he starts dousing everything in water. Well, I was dead for over 20 minutes. So that's quite a while to be pulling stuff down and throwing it into the middle of the floor and lighting it on fire and dousing it with water and making a giant mess of what were my memories. So suddenly, my heart gets restarted. The heart sends the brain a signal, and it says, hey, we're not going anywhere. Put everything back. And of course, the warehouse guy is like, oh my God, we have to put everything back and get on with the business of running this man's life. So what they do is all the warehouse workers look at this big pile of your memories all over the place on the floor, and they start picking them up and stuffing them into boxes without any concern as to where they're supposed to fit. So you get 1983 mixed in with 1995, and you get Bob mixed with Jim, mixed with Nita, mixed with Teresa, mixed with Penny, and some of them are burned and gone. Some of them are doused with water, so the writing on them is all just gibberish. It's all, it's blurry from water stains, and that's your memories. Having a brain injury tears away reality. There are times when I walk my dog. You've seen my dog in the background probably. When I look up at the world and I think, maybe I died. Maybe I'm in purgatory. Maybe I have to prove something. Maybe I was kidnapped by aliens and brainwashed, taken to an alternate reality. All of these things sound stupid, but they're real thoughts to me. Brain injuries are confusing as hell. They at times can make you doubt everything about you. And when I went back to Haymarket, it was really, my brain was freaked out for a little while. Just like when I went to the College World Series. the College World Series, I was standing on one of the photography wells outside the dugout, and I was really freaking out, and I didn't want to cry in public. So I just talked this guy's ear off. I imagine to this day he's probably like, wow, what was wrong with that guy? Well, now you know. It's important you understand this stuff, because when you're dealing with somebody with a brain injury, they may not be able to tell you what's wrong with them because they don't understand it themselves. A whole chunk of my life in the hospital is missing. Other people had to tell me what happened. That's kind of weird. It took months for me to figure out that my memories were damaged. It took months for me to figure out what was causing stress, what was causing me to be so fatigued, what was causing severe headaches. Almost 5.5 years later, almost 6 years later, I am still trying to figure these things out. So when you have somebody in your life who has a brain injury, you need to give them some grace. You need to give them some forgiveness. Because there's things like sensory overload that just destroys us. When we can lose our minds sometimes. And it's really hard to not have a quick temper. Or neuro fatigue is a very severe problem where you get fatigued by the easiest, that is things that you would take for granted. For example, if I look at it like a scatter plot, or some kind of graph with advanced statistics, I can look at that for about 10 minutes and then I have to go lie down. And those things are difficult, but they can be made more difficult by people that are around us that don't understand. Or they think they're going to help by snapping us out of it by doing weird stuff like hiding our things. People don't do that to me. I've had very, very excellent support. But I want to make this video, I guess, because I had the opportunity. And because brain injuries just happen. I wanted to make this video because brain injuries just happen. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, I think I'd like to have a brain injury today. They go out and they get in a car accident. They get hit riding their bicycle. They slip and hit their head when they're walking on ice. They play football and get too many concussions. All sorts of accidents and things happen that are entirely beyond our control, that in a moment alter our lives forever. And I know I probably should be talking about some Husker football type stuff, but this is going on the channel because you need to be more aware of it. Thanks if you made it this far. Take care of yourselves. Go Big Red.